In this video, we're going to talk about project management. Is this really a topic for HR? I think so. HR is always implementing various programs and policies, and I think project management would help. So let's get going right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams and the host of HR Shop Talk. On this show, you get expert insight into all kinds of things that have to do with HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen. You can also subscribe to the podcast to keep learning from my smart and experienced guests. Today, my guest is Steve Lemmex. Steve is a project management professional with decades of experience. I came across Steve when I saw him delivering project management training to HR professionals, and I was really excited and curious to have him on the show. So here he is. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the invite.
So just to get us all on the same page and a basic question, what is project management?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question. If you define what a project is, so for me, there's 5 criteria for a project to be a project. Is anything at work that starts and ends, that produces something called deliverables. That's unique and one-off, like one and done. That's relatively short term, which we kind of measure in weeks or months, like 8 months, 12 months is typical. And the other thing, constrained in time, cost, and scope. That's a project, then you can throw project management at it. So if I'm on a project, then for me, the definition of project is to plan, manage, monitor, and control that entire process once I know that I'm on a project.
So that was a pretty concise and clear answer. So can we talk about project management in HR?
Mm-hmm.
Why is project management important in HR?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, because I've seen over the years HR people show up periodically on courses.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they're not quite sure what it is and why they need it. But I mean, you could argue in any department, in any company, there's projects. So HR is no different. There's still projects in HR like rolling out LMS systems, putting in new pay and benefits programs, planning and managing events. Those to me are all projects.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, HR is no different than any other department. You're still on the hook, I would argue, to plan and run the project effectively so you're not late and over budget.
When you think about some of those HR projects, what difference would project management make to those projects?
Well, some statistics, actually, that's an interesting question you asked. Some statistics I saw recently that project management save up to 12% of project costs if I run and manage it effectively rather than just trying to run it without structured project management. IBM found that 68% of project failures were due to inexperienced or unskilled project managers. So there's big savings, actually. It depends. I mean, let's say on a $1 million project, that can add up.
A lot of times, your boss or whoever might push back against that. It's overblown. You don't need to do that. Just do it.
Yeah. And this is one of the key things, actually, that, inexperienced project managers can fall into an easy trap, because one of your number one jobs as a PM is to set and manage stakeholder expectations. Mm-hmm. So when bosses walk up and drop projects in your lap and they want it done yesterday for free, I mean, part of your job is to gently push back and say, hang on, let's plan this properly. Let's be reality. It's not going to be free. It's going to be something. So then to sit down and actually plan properly with a team, let's say, pull together your team of experts to come up with some reasonable time and cost estimates so you can go back to management. And I would say negotiate. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying, look, you're saying a month, boss, I'm saying 3, let's talk. And so the part of this is you need to be able to prove it. So when management says 3 months, that's ridiculous, I don't believe you, prove it to me. We'll have some ammunition to do that.
Right.
So here's my schedule, here's best case, worst case time estimates. Here's what I think is reasonable. Unless we start bringing in consultants, sure, we can do it faster. But with internal folks, it's going to be 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to set some expectations on reality.
Mm-hmm. Is there a time where, when you think about some, like event planning, let's say, I don't know, HR does plan events now and then, where project management is overblown, like that, using that, robust an approach would be too much.
Yeah. And this is an issue that every organization faces. How do you scale it up and down?
Okay.
Like, for example, PMI, Project Management Institute, they're sort of by far the North American standard, and private and public organizations are aligning to their methodology, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem with PMI is they always live in the world of mega projects.
Right.
So when you think PMI, you're talking multi-billion-dollar projects. So their best practices is tailored for that world. Problem is, my experience, the other 98% of us don't work on multi-billion-dollar projects. Work on, what I call the quick and dirty small projects, 2 months, 3 months, two or three people, part-time, get it done, roll right on to the next project. So to me, it's almost like a little mini assembly line. And that's what most of us work on. So the ability to scale it up and down and make it work and make it useful, that to me is the real key. I mean, it's really easy to overdo project management, and you can get caught up in the templates and the methodologies and the processes and procedures. One organization I dealt with at one point had 104 mandatory project management templates that they were required to use to run a project, which was too much,
I would say.
Yeah, and another organization out of the US we started dealing with a few years ago, we scaled it back from 25 down to 12, trying to make it simple, trying to hit that sweet spot. And I see some organizations, they way overdo project management, some way underdo it. So what I always like to try and do when we get involved with companies and HR folks is to try and hit the middle ground. Not overdo it, not underdo it, make it practical, make it simple, where you can, get on with the work, plan the project properly, do it right, but do it fast, and then just get on with it.
If you found this helpful, subscribe to see all the episodes and comment. Have you worked on a project that would have benefited from formal project management? Let us know in the comment section below. Okay, so you've taught courses to HR professionals about project management. So what are some of the questions that HR people ask?
Yeah, what I hear most often is, first of all, what is project management? Because there's not a lot of, I wouldn't say understanding, but not a lot of experience in formally running projects in the HR world. So the first question generally is, what is it? Second question is, why do I need it? And then how can I do it without overdoing it, right? And not beating it to death. So I find a lot of curiosity originally, then everybody then rolls up the sleeves and we get in and do it, and then start planning and preparing to run our projects properly. The real issue, I guess, is going to be the how, because a lot of times I'll see people, they're really not sure what to do, so they try and get all wrapped up in the process and the rules and the policies and all the steps, and it's easy to get too wrapped up in the actual process of planning and trying to run the projects without just figuring out how to skinny it down and making it simple. One of the things I like to talk about in class and in consulting jobs is, how do we make it simple? How do we make it effective? How do we use some bare minimum planning tools, some bare minimum templates, so we can just get on with it? Because it makes no sense. I always like to say in class, you don't want to spend a month planning a 2-week project. Right.
Okay. So another question, which I think probably confuses people to some degree, is the models of project management. Can you talk about the models and what they might be good for, and which one might be most suited to HR?
Yeah, this is a big deal right now in industry, is what do people do in organizations with agile? Now, just a little bit of history. What's called traditional waterfall project management, we sequence tasks, right? We do a design, or we do requirements, we do the design, we do the coding, we do the testing in sequence. It looks like a little waterfall on the schedule. That's been around for centuries, you can argue. Now, PMI has kind of encompassed that and packaged it. Literally, you can argue back to the pyramids, right? Time, cost, scope, sequencing tasks. But PMI probably 35 years ago now kind of packaged that and formalized it, which has been great. Probably 10, 12 years ago, Agile hit the scene, which is a really useful IT project management methodology, or a software development methodology. Works fantastic on IT projects. What a lot of organizations are dealing with, because Agile's kind of the cool thing right now, right? So everybody's trying to figure out what to do with it. How do we work with it? So what I'm seeing emerge with a lot of organizations is companies that are used to traditional waterfall project management, which they might have been done forever. Now all of a sudden, well, how do we use Agile? Where does that fit? So I'm starting to see pockets of agile emerging within traditional projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking IT projects. Agile works in IT, right? So you might have, putting in a new website. So we do requirements and design. And when it's time to get coding and testing, you start to see agile come to the front. So seeing certain phases within traditional waterfall projects using agile is what I'm seeing a lot. It's called hybrid. A lot of people are, first of all, or organizations are trying to define what is hybrid, what does it look like, and how does it work in our shop. And there's lots of different hybrid models and options out there right now. There's no one size fits all. Every organization is trying to define what hybrid looks like in their world.
What do you think is most useful in HR?
Well, unless it's an IT HR project, like implementing an LMS type of system where there's an IT component, then traditional waterfall, right, would probably be most of all the other types of projects you could define. Because HR tends not to be IT heavy, unlike, the IT department, which they're all their projects, right?
Yeah.
So I would say anytime you've got IT types of projects, that could lend itself to agile. Not to say you can't run IT projects using waterfall. Now, in one of my old job when I used to work in Raleigh down in the States, that was pure waterfall, and it was all website development projects. Now, agile could have applied, but we were using waterfall at the time. Actually, what we were using, kind of interesting, we were using watergile, a mixture of hybrid and waterfall. The terms weren't even there yet.
Yeah.
But looking back, it actually was a mix of waterfall and hybrid and agile.
And I would figure that someone starting out in project management is likely going to just start with waterfall anyway.
Yeah, and that's by far the most popular. Well, Agile's hot right now. Agile's been around forever. So yeah, traditional would be out there, probably 90% of projects right now across all industries lend themselves well to waterfall. Once you start having IT components or pure IT projects, sure, agile comes to the front.
And the other thing I think we hear a lot about is project management certifications. There's so many. So what are they? And which ones might be helpful to an HR practitioner?
Right. In North America, probably for the last 20 years, by far, PMI has emerged as a sort of the leading certification. Now, there's other bodies out there, like, for example, in Europe, Prince 2 is a real big model. But by far in North America, PMI is it. And like I said earlier, PMI for 30 plus years has been traditional waterfall. So they offer what's called a PMP, Project Management Professional Certification, where you do an exam and you have to study, and it's level of effort for a PMP exam would be like maybe 2 full semester university courses crammed into one final exam. So it's like a 180 question exam. So it's not easy. So PMI likes to make it pretty difficult, and it is. It's not impossible. So there's the PMP certification, which many organizations sort of recognize as desirable.
Yes.
Also, a few years ago, PMI added what's called their CAPM, Certified Associate Project Manager designation, which is for people that don't have the amount of years of experience.
Okay.
Because one of the things you have to show is how many months going back your last 8 years for your PMP.
Okay.
And so that's like 60 months or 36 months of active project management in the past 8 years. So, more junior people who just don't have the time in.
Yep.
The APM is exactly for that. That's what it's designed for.
Right. Okay.
So the CAPM and PMP certifications are highly recognized across pretty much all industries. It's industry generic. It doesn't matter what industry you work in. And it's, for many organizations, it's kind of required to get in the door as a project manager for the role.
Okay. All right. When do you think an HR person should be thinking about one or the other?
It depends on the role, because always the great debate in all parts of any company, HR included, is, what's my balance between operational work, my regular job, versus how much time am I spending on these temporary, unique projects, right?
Yeah.
Is it 50-50, 70-30, 60-40? And I would say if you're, consistently over 50% of your time is spent on projects, ideally as a project manager, as a technical lead or something, then you might want to think about it. And if you're only spending 10, 20, 30% of your time on projects, And if you're not the project manager,
Mm,
and I don't know if you'd actually need the designation,
yeah.
but once
Okay.
it starts becoming a major part of your job, then yeah, definitely. The
Okay.
other part of it's going to be your work culture. How important is a PMP in your company?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
some shops you just don't get promoted if you don't have it.
Right.
In other organizations, it's not such a big deal.
Thanks, Steve. That was personally satisfying because I love projects and I like project management. I talked to somebody else about change management, and the episode link is right here. Thanks for watching and see you next time.